Hello and welcome to today's session, Smart Justice, produced by Government Technology in cooperation with CA Technologies. My name is Dugan Petty. I'm a senior fellow with the Center for Digital Government, and I'll be your host and moderator today. I'd like to share just a few announcements before we begin. This webcast is designed to be interactive, and you can participate in question and answers with us by asking questions at any time during the presentation. You'll just need to type your question into the Q&A text box area on the lower left side of the console and click Submit. If you'd like to download a PDF of the slides for this presentation, you can do so by clicking the Slides widget at the bottom of the console. Also, during today's webinar, you'll be able to connect with your peers via LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Please use hashtag GTLive to connect with your peers across the government technology platform via Twitter. Lastly, the recorded session will be available to all registrants within 48 hours. You can use the recorded session for your reference or feel free to pass on to your colleagues. This time we recommend you disable your pop-up blockers, and if you're experiencing any media player issues or have any other problems, please visit our webcast help guide by clicking on the Help button at the bottom of the console. Now let's move on to our presentation. Today we are happy to have Adrian Farley, Chief Information Officer for the California Department of Justice. Adrian's going to join us as our featured speaker today. Adrian has had a hand in a lot of major California state technology projects over the past several years. As Chief Deputy under the former state CIO, Terry Takai, Adrian was instrumental in reforming IT procurement practices, shifting responsibility for large system integration procurements to the state technology department, and introducing key innovations like RFP boot camps and multi-stage contracting, aimed at fostering more competition and better results. He also spearheaded the development of the state's federated data center, where state agencies like corrections and public health now lease space for their own operations. A year ago this March, the California Justice Department launched a mobile app for the California law enforcement agencies, Justice Mobile, the first statewide implementation of its kind in the United States, according to the Attorney General's office. Gives officers in the field direct access to information about suspects via their smartphone or tablet. Working closely with the San Francisco Police Department, which piloted Justice Mobile before its statewide release, Adrian played a pivotal role in coordinating the development of the new app. At least 80 other agencies, local, state, and federal, are in various stages of deployment. Now Adrian's working on a statewide platform that unites all information about offenders from different data systems in the state and makes them available in a single profile through a Google-like search engine. He's also looking ahead to some ambitious undertakings in 2015 and beyond, including single sign-on access across systems for law enforcement-related information, and an open record source management solution. Welcome, Adrian. Please take it away.
Thanks, Dugan, and thank you, Government Technology and CA, for supporting this effort. I'm really going to talk about how Justice Mobile enables a smarter justice system and empowers law enforcement officers to create safer communities for all of us. As part of this presentation, I'm going to talk about the drivers behind Justice Mobile, what the vision that supported its development was, the business case, how Justice Mobile was delivered, how we're progressing toward a smarter justice system as a result of Justice Mobile, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So really, Justice Mobile came about because of the confluence of the trend toward community-oriented policing, the overall trend in technology, which is consumerization, as well as a focus in law enforcement led by the Attorney General toward information sharing. The movement toward community policing has gained momentum in recent years, particularly in light of several officer-involved shootings. It's really been a way for police and community leaders to search for more effective ways to promote public safety and to enhance the quality of life in their communities. This approach supports the systematic use of partnerships and problem-solving techniques, and in many cases aided by technology, to proactively address the conditions that give rise to crime and break down the traditional barriers between law enforcement and communities. The trend of consumerization of technology is really about the proliferation of powerful cloud, mobile, and social technologies that are radically lowering costs, greatly improving functionality, and creating users who are ever more technologically savvy. Law enforcement officers, like the public at large, are more technologically savvy than ever, and they have a greater expectation that the technology that they have available at work is really going to aid in their productivity. This trend requires an enhanced focus on security, particularly in the context of law enforcement data and information. California, under the Attorney General's leadership, has been a leader in its commitment to law enforcement information sharing. Like in all other areas of the world, technology has reduced barriers to information sharing within and among law enforcement agencies, and is enabling multi-jurisdictional and multidisciplinary coordinated responses to emergencies and law enforcement events. California has embarked on a significant effort to standardize and provide access to local, state, and federal data through standards-based data sharing protocols that enable the analysis and production of actionable intelligence. So the vision for Justice Mobile, as articulated by the Attorney General, is to provide law enforcement personnel with secure, reliable, and efficient access to criminal justice information, anytime, anywhere, from any device. As officers are increasingly on the streets and away from their police vehicles, they need access to information so that they can assist members of the public, identify suspects, and react to new information as it becomes available. The business case for Justice Mobile is based on 4 key principles: increasing officer safety through enhanced access to information, supporting community engagement, enhancing productivity of law enforcement, and building on proven technology solutions. So I think it's important to provide a little bit of understanding about Justice Mobile. Justice Mobile consists of 2 primary components. First, a secure application optimized for mobile devices, and secondly, a security system for smartphones and tablets. Justice Mobile provides law enforcement personnel with secure mobile access to criminal justice information in databases belonging to the California Department of Justice, the Department of Motor Vehicles, as well as others, and provides access to the FBI's National Crime Information Center databases. I'm going to show you basically what Justice Mobile looks like. The LEA web portion of Justice Mobile provides law enforcement with access to information about vehicles, driver's licenses, criminal history, wanted persons, mental health information, firearms, as well as information about stolen property. In this case, we'll look for a person that's wanted, a John Doe. It's a very easy-to-use application that we built based on feedback from law enforcement. And we can quickly see a photograph of a person that's missing and information about that person. In terms of delivering Justice Mobile, we began by focusing on the security framework to comply with the FBI's CJIS security policy. Then we conducted joint application design sessions with law enforcement users, which led to our alpha release in March of 2013. After 60 days of testing, we released our beta version in June 2013 and released version 1 in September 2013. Since then, we've produced new releases every 2 months. In terms of our progress and results from Justice Mobile, we really have made significant progress toward a smarter justice system. In terms of increasing access to officer safety through enhanced access to information, more than 10,000 law enforcement personnel are using Justice Mobile. In terms of community engagement, we now have law enforcement personnel in more than 100 jurisdictions using Justice Mobile. In terms of enhancing productivity, Justice Mobile has increased the productivity of DOJ special agents by more than 4x and reduced the need for overtime. Law enforcement officers are able to identify subjects in the field without taking them into stations. And through building on proven technology, we've been able to use both commercial and open source technologies to ensure the reliability of the application, and uptime has exceeded 99.9%. We'd now be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Adrian, that was really great. A very impressive project and tremendous success. Thanks for sharing that with us. And now, as Adrian suggested, it's time to move on to questions from our audience. Adrian, I have to know how you built this. If you can tell us a little bit about what it took to build this out, it's really impressive what you've done. So, what did you do? How did you do it?
Well, thanks, Dugan. It was really a collaborative effort that we worked on for quite a long time, and we really began by spending time learning how the end users of the platform work and how they wanted to work in the future. And then from that, we really did an inventory of our existing information assets and tried to determine which of those were best suited for the Justice Mobile platform. And then we worked with our users to develop an alpha version of the application, and we tested and iterated with that before we launched the application for the public as a whole. I'm very fortunate to have a tremendous mobile team and a web development team that were critical in making this happen.
Well, very good. Let me remind the audience that if you have a question that you would like to ask Adrian, just enter it in on the Q&A tab on your platform, and Adrian will be happy to respond to those questions. So systems like this, I mean, you've made this look very easy, Adrian, and the team that worked on this, but I know it didn't come without its share of challenges. So what were some of the challenges that you had to overcome to launch Justice Mobile?
Well, I think that with any type of transition to a new computing platform, there are a number of challenges that you face. We really face three primary challenges. The first is really the overall transition to a mobile platform, and that is convincing the people that are responsible for making investments in new technology that mobile was not just a toy for officers or for other law enforcement officials, but that was actually something critical to the way that people work and should work in the future. The second was really coming up with a way to secure the mobile environment in a uniform way across the state. So there's a lot of policy work and technical work that went into making that happen. And then finally, law enforcement agencies across the state have standards for training, and so our work has been focused on providing the tools and techniques necessary for law enforcement agencies to train their employees so that they can use the Justice Mobile platform.
Very good. I know this is a growing platform, but how many end users do you have on board right now? And let me just ask you if you're kind of targeting what the future might look like in terms of end users.
Sure. Well, the Attorney General started with a very bold vision for Justice Mobile and all of the kind of information sharing platforms that we have in California, and that is that she wants to see at least 80% adoption by law enforcement agencies in California. So we're about 18% on that path in terms of the number of authorized users for the platform, and we see consistent growth and interest all the time. So we're really focused on getting people enrolled, trained, and using the platform as a regular tool.
Is this aimed only at law enforcement, Adrian, or will others come onto the platform?
It's focused on criminal justice information, so we've got state, local, and federal agencies that operate in California using it, everything from, for example, the University of California Police to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department.
Could you be more specific about some of the other users? We have a question that is interested in, I think, the range of users involved with this.
Sure. So we, like the Customs and Border Enforcement, use the application to search California information. And then we have, for example, within the California Department of Justice, we have a group called the Bureau of Firearms that's responsible for ensuring the safety of Californians by removing firearms from people that are armed and prohibited. So those people that either have a mental health or criminal conviction that prohibits them from owning firearms. So we've got a broad range of users with access to the platform. And for example, the Bureau of Firearms team that we work with was really our primary partner in launching the application internally. And then obviously, as I mentioned during the presentation, the San Francisco Police Department is a critical partner, and they're tremendous users of the platform.
Very good. It sounds like the platform's got a lot of flexibility for all types of end users within the context of criminal justice. So it's pretty darned impressive. Let me ask you, I mean, you're off to a great start on this platform and really enabling criminal justice organizations to be much more effective right now. But what's the long-term vision for the future of the platform?
Sure. So we're really focused in the next probably year or 18 months. We've got a group of we've got a steering committee that's made up of law enforcement leaders from across California, from large law enforcement agencies to small ones, and they really are helping us focus on what are the key capabilities that they want to see. So the first big focus is around single sign-on to all of the different applications that are accessible through the Justice Mobile platform. And then from there, we're looking to integrate things like mobile field investigation capability, the ability to do field-based image recognition, and then finally we're looking at really doing an integration of kind of where force capabilities located relative to where the officer is, so that things like all the dispatch information is available at a single click or a single touch of the screen to law enforcement officials. Mm-hmm.
Very good. I noticed you were talking about in the delivery of the system in very impressive time marks for the initial rollout. But one of the things that you mentioned and talked about in the slide was that you were doing an update, a new release every 2 months, at least initially. Are you still on target for doing a new release every 2 months?
Yeah, so in terms of the release cycle, we have basically a 4 to 6 week development window, and then after that we turn it over to our internal testing team that looks at both, what is the performance impact of the updates to the application, and then also does a security review. So we add, for example, one of the key things that we're adding in the near term is the ability for law enforcement officials to look at photographs, DMV photographs from outside of California. So that's something that we'll be releasing in the April timeframe. So that's a lot of our development's focused on that right now.
That really keeps the application fresh, and it strikes me that that you've built out the basic application, but the growth potential is really high here, and you're using. At some point, it looks like you're making business changes based on the stakeholders involved and rolling out new applications. It sounds like almost agile techniques. So I have to ask you, was this an agile project delivery system, or does it just have shades of that in the rollouts?
Well, yeah, we're in terms of all of our application development, we're really focused on a rigorous agile process. It means for us that we spend a lot of time understanding the user need and understanding the user's workflow, and then from that building applications and getting those to our users quickly for feedback, and then iterating as necessary to better meet their business needs. So it's really been such a tremendous partnership between our law enforcement colleagues as well as the technologists that work at the Department of Justice. And then we work very closely with technology professionals at law enforcement agencies across California.
Very good. Also a question on the involvement on Justice Mobile application from the point of compliance. So from a standpoint of compliance, what was the involvement? And also, I think you touched on a little bit, but could you talk more about the adoption rate by law enforcement agencies?
Sure. So we've the compliance issue is the overriding compliance requirements are the FBI's Criminal Justice Information Services security policy. So the application, the platform and all of the applications that operate within it are tied to that policy, as well as California has its own policies, procedures, and practices as it relates to information security. So we overlay part of the Justice Mobile kind of landscape is a mobile device management solution that includes two-factor authentication, and then a virtual private network connection to the Department of Justice that rides over California's law enforcement network. And then in terms of adoption, there are a number of different applications, but overall about 18% of law enforcement in California have are authorized users for the application.
It's a pretty good uptake for a fairly new system. So is there a key to that adoption rate? I mean, it sounds like the governance structure helps make sure that what you're rolling out is what's needed by law enforcement organizations, but is there kind of a key beyond that to help with adoption?
Sure. We've taken a kind of a two-phase approach. One, which is kind of a sales engineering model, which is we have a team at the Department of Justice that works very closely with our law enforcement and technology colleagues at agencies across California to really explain and show them the platform. The other thing, we've engaged from the Attorney General on down, executives within the department have been working with senior level law enforcement leaders across the state to talk about why mobility is so important to the community-based policing mission. And that's resonated significantly with law enforcement leaders across California. And that's really there's a demand at the local level for access to the applications and the platform, and it's kind of a bottom-up and top-down approach. So you get everything in the middle.
Yeah, very good. Is there going to be any future linkage to allow input from the mobile devices, like uploading photographs or audio or videos or anything else?
Sure, that's absolutely part of our roadmap. For instance, we're on our field interview component that we're going to be adding to the platform that will allow for kind of geolocation capture, video capture, as well as photo capture. And then for the image recognition component, that's obviously got a photo capture capability.
One more question from the audience. What's the name of the vendor of the MDM software used?
We are working with VMware's AirWatch.
Okay. One thing that I really liked is your Venn diagram slides, one of the early slides that showed the overlap between community policing and also the consumerization of information technology. That really gets to an issue of budgets, because by this approach you've really allowed for devices that are not incredibly expensive and are very mobile to be used by police departments, and I think in some cases devices that they're very familiar with. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, sure. I mean, California has an extensive mobile broadband as well as cellular networks, and we think that putting the right security frameworks on top of existing commercially available devices is the way to provide access and capability to law enforcement professionals now, as opposed to waiting for whatever might come in the future, whether that's the work that's going on for the FirstNet or whatever else might come about. But providing capabilities now has really been our focus, and doing that in a way that's both secure and then reliable.
Well, Adrian, I want to thank you for your time today. What you've done and what your team is doing in California with Justice Mobile is very impressive and a very useful tool for law enforcement organizations. So on behalf of our audience, I want to thank you very much. And I also want to thank our sponsors today, Government Technology, and our sponsor, CA Technologies, for bringing this virtual conference to you today. And thank you, audience, for attending.